Vikings raided kingdoms without fear. They burned cities. They laughed at death. But there was one people they avoided, because even Vikings believed these men could kill you without touching you. The Viking world was built on courage. Fear was weakness. Hesitation was shame. To die without bravery meant being forgotten. And yet, across the north, there were places Viking ships refused to land. Forests they sailed past in silence. Snowy interiors they warned their children never to enter. Not because of armies, not because of walls, but because of a people who lived outside Viking rules. They did not raid. They did not conquer. They did not fight like Vikings at all. And that was the problem. These people didn't challenge Viking strength. They challenged Viking understanding of how the world worked. And once that fear took hold, even the bravest warriors hesitated. The Vikings called them many things, whispered names, never shouted. They lived far north and far inland, beyond farms, beyond longhouses, beyond places where a warrior felt protected by his clan. These people moved with the seasons, not borders. They followed animals, not kings. Their lives depended on reading the land, snow, wind, silence. And to Vikings, that alone was unsettling. A Viking believed power came from steel, numbers, and reputation. But this tribe survived without any of that. When Viking traders met them, the encounters were strange. No boasting, no challenges, no fear, just quiet eyes watching. Vikings believed courage came from facing death head-on. But these people didn't face danger. They avoided it completely, yet still survived. That contradiction bothered them. Over time, stories spread. A ship caught in sudden wind after passing their coast. A hunter lost in fog after insulting one of them. A warrior struck by sickness days after an argument. No wound, no mark. Vikings didn't call this coincidence. They believed these people could bend the unseen. Not fireballs, not monsters, just subtle things. Wind shifting, luck turning, hunting, failing, sleep filled with dread. The Vikings believed the world was alive with forces. And they believed this tribe listened to those forces better than anyone. Some Vikings tried to dominate them. That never ended well. A group would enter their land with confidence and return quieter, shorter in number, avoiding eye contact. They didn't speak of battles. They spoke of warnings, of being watched without seeing anyone, of drums heard at night, far away, of dreams so vivid they woke screaming. And then there were the rituals. Vikings respected ritual, but this was different. These people didn't pray for victory. They prayed for balance. They didn't worship war gods. They spoke to spirits of land and animals. To Vikings, who believed the gods favored strength, this felt dangerous. If power came from harmony instead of force, what did that say about Viking life? The fear grew deeper when Vikings realized something else. This tribe didn't want Viking land, didn't want Viking wealth, didn't want Viking approval. They didn't fear Viking raids, they simply endured them. And endurance is terrifying to a warrior culture, because you can't defeat what doesn't need to win. Some Vikings tried to trade instead. They brought iron, weapons, silver. The tribe accepted, but never depended on it. Vikings noticed something unsettling. They never begged, never chased profit, never tried to impress. They had something Vikings didn't understand. And when Vikings don't understand something, they imagine the worst. Stories began to exaggerate, not into fantasy, but into dread. A man cursed for mocking their rituals. A raiding party lost in sudden storms. Hunters whose weapons failed when they needed them most. None of it was dramatic. That was what made it believable. Fear didn't come from spectacle. It came from patterns, and patterns suggested intention. Vikings began setting rules. Don't insult them. Don't steal from them. Don't follow them inland. And never interfere with their rituals. These weren't laws. They were survival advice. The strongest Viking warriors, the ones with scars and reputations, were often the most cautious. They had seen enough death to know when something wasn't normal. To them, this tribe didn't fight battles. They fought fate itself. And Vikings believed fate could not be beaten. Over generations, the fear settled into something deeper than panic. Respect. Vikings still raided kingdoms, still mocked foreign kings, still challenged gods. But with this tribe, they negotiated. They avoided unnecessary conflict. They watched their words. They lowered their voices. That alone tells us everything. A culture that praised fearless death learned restraint. Not because they were weaker, but because they sensed a kind of power that didn't announce itself. The Vikings believed death in battle was honorable, but death by misfortune, by sickness, by loss of luck, that was terrifying. Because there was no enemy to strike back at, no glory, no revenge, just silence. And in a world where stories kept your name alive, silence was worse than death. The Vikings eventually faded. Their ships rotted. Their gods went quiet. But that northern tribe never vanished. They adapted, endured. Stayed tied to land others could not tame. And if even Vikings, who feared nothing with a blade, believed some people were better left undisturbed, then maybe the most dangerous power in history was never violence. It was knowing when not to fight at all, to fight at